Welcome back to the podcast. This is Layla Rose, and today we are discussing the alchemical path of Saturn to success. So, we're going to be discussing what Saturn means and how we can use its magic to basically create a lot of success, a lot of freedom into our lives. And so let's just jump right into it. So the planet of Saturn is the planet of karma, justice, discipline. It is the planet of mastery as well, the planet of laws and boundaries, which is why when you look at the government, for example, the government uses a lot of Saturnian symbolism. A lot of people confuse Saturn with Satan, which is not the same. Obviously, the name is very similar, which is why there's a lot of confusion and distortions, but it's very different. It's not the same. So we live in a Saturnian society. The Saturn energy is also feminine, but it is a feminine energy that has no emotion whatsoever, which is why, for example, the legal system doesn't take into consideration, I would say, emotions at all. It really looks at, people's bank accounts. Like it's very rigid. It's very traditional, it's very conservative. So this is the type of energy that Saturn has. Obviously, when it comes to the human emotions, Saturn is not the planet with the most compassion compared to Venus, for example. But it is a planet that we can work with when it comes to, having a business, or if we want to be well known into our industry. I don't like the word famous, obviously, because there's a lot of, negative connotation now, especially with the whole, Hollywood industry falling down. But I'm saying, it gives you a lot of notoriety and a lot of success when it comes to your own industry. All right. So, there's a lot of information to say about Saturn, but when it comes to the military, for example, there's a lot of navy blue, even with the police. So again, these are all Saturnian symbols. The number connected to Saturn is the number 8. So the year 2024 is actually a year that is ruled by Saturn. If someone goes through a Saturn and return, this type of information, by the way, is what I needed to hear when I was going through my Saturn and return. But unfortunately, I had no mentors. No one was able to guide me, and I just went through hell. But if you're going through Saturn in return, or you know someone who does, working with the energy of Saturn instead of against it is going to make life so much easier. All right. So this was just a little quick tip. Also, the Saturn is connected to the day, which is Saturday, which sounds similar, right? Saturday. Obviously, you can put up an altar for Saturn on whatever day you feel like it. Like it's better than not doing it. But obviously, if you want to work with the energy of Saturn and to amplify it more, than working on a Saturday is going to be more beneficial. Also, a few other signs, or I would say symbols of Saturn, are the RX. You probably see this symbol on medication. We see a lot of it on it. And the XXX also, so 3 times X, is also a symbol of Saturn. A lot of times when celebrities are going through a rut, or they just want to be more successful, you're going to notice in music videos, on their clothing, there's going to be a lot of symbols of Saturn. They're also going to use symbols of Lilith, because if you haven't noticed yet, the sigil of Lilith is actually very similar to the one of Saturn, but it's a bit different because the role of Lilith is to balance the power of Saturn, which is why when there's too much Saturnian energy within the collective or within our society, there's usually a rise of the divine feminine, a rise of Lilith. So a lot of red. There's a lot of, symbolism for Lilith, the crows. She's she owns her sexuality. So we're going to see a lot of women that are sexually empowered, which is very triggering for society. So actually this is what's going through right now in 2024 in our society, especially with the April 8th solar eclipse. I've made an episode specifically about this eclipse, by the way, if you want to listen to it. But yeah, these are just a few examples of how, celebrities and society has already been conditioned to these symbols. It's just that most people are just ignorant. They don't know what it means. But once again, if you want to work with the energy of Saturn, it can be very beneficial when it comes to, birthing a new project, venture, business, because it's going to give you the stamina and the resilience to really bring forth this project, which is what we need, when we have any form of projects, right? So one way to work with the Saturnian energy is to also work with the sounds of Saturn. So you can go on YouTube and write the Saturn frequency. So by listening to it, in the morning, or if you're, writing a book, you're working on a project, you can listen to that frequency while you're doing it. And it's going to affect you in a positive way. And you're going to feel more energized, I would say, and you're gonna feel on the positive side of life. You know how a lot of people are always victims of their circumstances, or they're going through any sort of legal case, and so when you're working against the energy of Saturn, it can feel like living in hell on earth. But if someone uses the energy of Lilith and Saturn, then their chances to win that legal case is going to be much, much higher. All right. So obviously, doing the altar on Saturday is one way to do it, working with the sounds of Saturn, wearing the sigil, which is one of my favorite thing. I love wearing the Lilith one, and I usually hide it behind my clothes, like I wear it under my clothes, because whether people see it or not, they can feel it, which is great. And it's just good in general, like if you want to be on the good side of the law, or if you want to be on the good side of society, but without being, a slave, like in a more empowered way, this is how you can do it. Another way to work with Saturn is to meditate with the music, obviously. While you meditate, you can combine using the darkness. So we've talked about the darkness in so many episodes if you want to dive deeper into this subject. But like we've, mentioned previously, working with darkness is much, much faster because you're working with your subconscious mind, which is represented by the moon, which controls 95% of our daily actions. So if you want to create fast, quick, tangible results, especially with Saturn, because Saturn is usually a planet that's very slow when it comes to getting results. But if you combine the energy of Saturn with working with dark matter and darkness and doing a meditation in the pitch black with the sound of Saturn, you're going to be an unstoppable force. All right. So if you want to leave, for example, your 9 to 5, this is the key, on how to do it, because you're working with nature and not against it, which gives, much more sustainable results. All right. So we can end this episode by, just a few questions that you can ask on your own for yourself. You don't need to write the answer in the comments. If you feel called to, you can do it. But when it comes to the energy of Saturn, it's usually this type of energy that really asks you to find what your passions and skills are. So you can make a full list of all your passions and all your skills, all right? Creating a routine, a daily routine for the next 21 to 30 days is very Saturnian. And also working with your subconscious mind at night. So, for example, listening to affirmations, for example, for 21 days, as long as you're being consistent and disciplined, then obviously Saturn is going to really support you in this goal intention, right? Also, when it comes to the energy of Saturn, when you can make a list of passions, skills, talents that you have as well, things you just have naturally. And if you could do anything for free, like for example, if money didn't exist on this planet, what would you do for free? Like, what type of work would you work? Like, what would be your reality? These are all things you can write down. And these are all the things, by the way, you can write and then put on your altar. And then obviously you can ask Saturn to have those things, and you can thank the Saturnian energy in advance, and then you're going to make an offering, which, by the way, the word sacrifice means offering, but a lot of people get confused because they think it's like this really dramatic thing. But you can just give, crystals, spices, because this energy, loves darker colors, so navy blue, black, just go for like any darker or black crystals, anything that's like really dark, or for example, coffee, like just like a black coffee, like that's very Saturnian energy. All right. So while you're doing this, gratitude list for Saturn, for example, if you have a legal case as well, this is the best way to win it. You can write down your gratitude list, write all your passions, skills, talents, what you would do for free, and then you give your offerings, and that's it. You've made your altar and you've worked with the Saturnian energy. And it's a very extremely powerful energy that gives a lot of strength, a lot of clarity, a lot of discipline, a lot of focus and willpower, which is necessary, not necessarily all year long, because it's very exhausting. Just like thinking about it is exhausting sometimes. But we do need this type of energy from time to time, especially if we have any type of creative endeavor and we want to bring them to life, basically. All right, so that's it for today's episode. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, suggestions as well for my next episodes, and I'll see you tomorrow for our next podcast. Bye.